All right, so I have a new project here in the shop, and I thought I would be pretty cool for some videos on it. I'm going to be doing the whole shell on it, full restoration as well. It is a 65 Fastback, which I'll show you here in a second. But it needs everything sheet metal wise, nothing new that you haven't seen here done before. But it's going to be pretty cool, unique. It's getting a Coyote 6-speed manual, just top to bottom, getting done the right way. I have a Mustangs to Fear front and rear suspension kit that will be going on. So that's what I'm actually doing here in this video, is going to prep the one-piece floor pan that I have. I'm gonna take off the original floor supports and the transmission cross member. And I also, for the rear end, I have to take off the original spring bump stops for that axle housing to get those out of the way, to put the rear end pockets on. But once I get that out of the way up front, clean that up, prep the frame, which, like I said, this is from Mustangs to Fear. Gonna prep this to be able to go on that floor here today, which will be pretty cool. I'll show you how it kind of lines up and what you got to do. They make it really easy and straightforward. And also Mustangs to Fear rear suspension, which this is all you need. That goes onto the existing frame rail there. It's just a channel that slides up inside, and you can bolt it on, which is how they have it set up for, or you can weld it on. So I got to grind off some of this powder coat here to be able to weld it on completely. Same with that, I got to grind that stuff off and prep it to get it ready to weld. So by the end of this video, I'll have the floor pan flipped back over, clean up, frame in place. I'll probably have it up on some jack stands to try and get it spec'd out and measurement wise in the right place, to then be able to prep this shell to put it on. And you can see I just had it blasted, which a lot of it wasn't blasted because there's a lot of metal that you see. It's still going to get cut out because this car is pretty rough to start with. But the original skeleton is what I'm using here out of it, but it needs rockers, it needs B pillars, it needs A pillars, it needs a cowl, it needs the whole dash panel. It is getting Mustangs to Fear mini tub kits as well, so I didn't bother blasting that, but it needs a rear window panel. And it's a pretty rough car, but it still has the good inner structure shell left to go off of, which is all that you need, in my opinion, to do these and to save one of these shells. But there is some patchwork that needs done to some of this inner structure, but it's not too crazy. So that's what I'll be doing here. Gonna make some videos on just doing this process of getting the shell done and get it moving along. There's gonna be a lot of test fitting. I'm gonna test fit the drive line in and get everything set up so I can do all my drilling, cut my holes, have everything ready to then be painted. And do that whole process. So if you're interested in seeing how this stuff goes, I'll try and do a little more in depth than any of my other videos that you've seen on sheet metal. Try and give you some tips and tricks on some of that stuff along the way. So yeah, I'm gonna get cranking here and start getting this floor and frame rails prepped and put together. All right, so just to show you the back end suspension piece, I took off those brackets there, and you also had to take off, there's a parking brake bracket on the inside of that frame rail on both sides that you have to take off. So I did that, and I stuck these brackets on, marked where they're going to be at, because I'm going to weld them on instead of just bolting them. I like to weld the whole thing on. Helps with stiffening everything up in the end too. But just to give you an idea of how these are, basically just slides over the existing frame rail. Once you get those brackets out of the way, there is holes on the front of this bracket that'll locate with the front leaf spring bolt hole on the original frame. And then you're just gonna smack it into place. I line it up with that front one because it's notched about the same width of that hole that's on these frame rails. And then I take a dead blow, hammer, beat it down the rest of the way. And then you'll see me here in the video. I'm going to put front bolt in to locate that, and then just on the back end I'm going to vice grip pinch this tight so I get this frame gap to nothing between the original frame and the new bracket. And then I'm going to drill actually and put a bolt in the back piece for now, because I'm just going to assemble it with the bolts until I'm farther along, until I got the quarter panels on and I know I don't have to twist the floor at all, because sometimes from how these are set up, these are made in Taiwan, like all the sheet metal. But sometimes I've had it where rear frame rails, I had to take one end and pull it down a little bit than the other. So if I welded it now, it could be a little off. So I'm just going to use that back trailing hole, put a bolt in it, and use the front bolt hole until that later time. So I'm going to set these up, and then I'm going to flip the paint over, bring in the Mustang Saphir front frame assembly, which you'll see. I was thinking about doing this while it's upside down, but it might be hard for me to flip over in the end because it's pretty cool to see. But the subframe connectors that are built into this locate with that leaf spring bolt also. So it runs through that into the original frame hole. That locates your back end, and then you'll just slide the front end up until it meets the floor pan. So it doesn't get too much easier than that, honestly. I know this isn't easy because it's so far apart. It takes a lot of knowing where things are supposed to go to do this, but it does take out some guesswork. You just need to know your heights of everything in the end to set that up before you weld it onto the floor pan. So yeah, I'm gonna set those pockets in, and then maybe I'll put that frame on with it upside down so you can see. But like I said, it might be a little too heavy to flip over in the end and get it up on jack stands, but that's what I'm gonna get started on. So I did it upside down so that you can get the visual of what everything looks like from the bottom side and see it really clean. Just to see in a little bit of detail how this Mustang Saphir kit goes. This is by far my favorite kit to do, and I have no ties to Mustang Saphir or anything like that. It's just a good clean kit that I've always had good luck with. I like the way that it's put together, especially with the subframe connectors built onto it and how easy it makes it to fit it up like this. So it's basically sitting here ready to just flip over, which I'm going to do here in a minute. But you can see it just trails along goes on the floor pan like those original floor supports would have gone. Goes back. Like I said, the subframe connectors, they tie into that same leaf spring bolt hole. And I leave this loose. I won't weld that until I'll flip it over, and I'll also locate with this hole here that is for one of the control arms for the new suspension kit. So I want to make sure that that bolt hole lines up and line them up before it gets welded all in place here. But all the brackets are already welded on to here for the rear suspension. So, I mean, realistically, other than welding it, the suspension could be bolted in on that. Same with the front. The whole front end's all welded together, frames and all that stuff. So just a matter of building all the pieces around it. But real clean kit. Real happy. This is in the one day here. Nothing's welded, but everything's been cut off and cleaned up, prepped, ready to go to flip over to start building the car around it. So I'm just gonna flip it, put it on stands. We can check it out then, what it looks like right side up. And then next video, I'm going to set the shell up on the stands over there and take off either the rockers or just inner rockers. However, I'm gonna prep that body to then carry it over on top of the floor pan. So I'm gonna set this floor pan up the way I want it, at the heights that I want it, to get ready for that shell to go on. So now that it's right side up, you can kind of see how it comes together here as basically your whole frame, floor, one-piece unit now. It all just needs welded, but I do a lot of that as the car's coming together here. I want to get the body on the rockers and line that stuff up, get things at the right height, and then start tying some pieces together. But the rear end really won't get welded until the quarters are on. To just give you an example, like everything just freestanding here, you could twist. You can lift up on a corner and it'll twist the whole thing. Currently, that back corner is trailing down probably about a little over a quarter of an inch, and the front is also a little off also. But everything, once you pull it down to where it needs to go, you can see it just wiggles there. It's about a quarter inch twisted also. So once everything's set on, and then I'll tie things down to the floor where they need to be, and then it all gets welded. So it's all in a big process here, but this is in place where it kind of needs to go. My stands are all set up at right heights, and I'll give a little insight to where I'm at if it helps someone out, but don't use my measurements as a go-to. This is just the measurements that I've collected over years that have never failed me. I set my rockers up level. They're at 19 inches, and if you're new to the videos here, this one-piece floor that I made out of steel is leveled out completely so that I can base all my measurements from the ground up to different points of the car. And like right now, for this, the way that it's set up, I'm taking 6 points. Front and back of the rockers, to make sure that they're level, I have them at 19 inches. Very front of the frame rail should be roughly around 21 3/4 to 22 inches. And again, don't quote me, but that's just what I go off of. That's my measurement. You can see if yours is similar. So close to 22 inches, that's where I have the stand set right now. Like I said, the rocker's level. And then the last one that I do is off the back end. I'm going off of the bottom, the very back, farthest part of the frame rail, bottom, down to the ground is right around 26 1/2. So that's gives me the back end height, front end height, and middle height. And everything else is already welded or put together on this frame or to the floor assembly. So they're going to be at the right heights also. So basically, once I get those in check, entire front to back is all good. And then building up off of that, just kind of measurements of, you know, making sure your quarters are leveled out in the end and all that. But hopefully that was interesting to watch, and if you have something similar that you're doing, or you were on the fence about different suspension kits, that's my go-to kit, Mustangs to Fear. I think they are super clean in the end. I've never had a drivability issue. Easy to work with, and they make a ton of parts that I use and that I'm going to use for this car, being a Coyote swap car. They make a lot of pieces for that as well. But that's going to do it for this video. Next one will be on doing the shell, getting that ready to go over onto the floor pan. So stay tuned for that, and I appreciate you hanging in and for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.